I think it's working.
Okay, well, we should start.
Yeah, let's start. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your patience with the weird sounds. Really weird sounds today. Just to keep things interesting for all of you. So those of you that are new around here, so my husband, Dr. Thomas Ritter, and myself, I'm Shana Ritter. We teach courses around a variety of topics around dressage, but we've been really incorporating a lot of Feldenkrais and a lot of other things into our courses, and we're venturing into the unknown. We're exploring some other concepts, some really fun concepts, and I'm joined today by Catherine McCrum.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome. Catherine is a Feldenkrais practitioner and a Gestalt psychotherapist.
Yeah.
So a woman of many, many talents. And
you can say that.
Yeah. And we wanted to talk today about making the ordinary extraordinary, about seizing the ordinary moments that are all around us and using them to transform our writing and our relationships with our writing into something beyond ordinary. What would you like to add to that, Catherine?
Well, in a sense, we go about our daily lives and we might have quite a repetitive schedule, we might have a routine of a job, and we might walk through our life more like sleepwalkers than actually engaged and lively and fresh to each unfolding moment. And so rather than seeking to transform your life, and you know that thing you do when you're like 19 or 20 and you go, oh, I just want to leave and go and live on a beach and, feel the sea and all that kind of thing. You want to run away from your life in order to feel more alive. I'm suggesting that there are ways that we can actually live the life that we have in a richer, fresher, more lively and nourishing way. And that when we can bring that to ourselves, we can bring that to our training with our horses and to the partnership that we have with our horses. And I believe they will thank you, because talking to all of you about this, as well as myself, I believe they will thank you for it. Because after all, horses live in the present moment. They are deeply embedded in the sensory world. That is how they communicate and how they respond. They are physical creatures. And the more that we can understand that side of ourselves, I believe that the communication channels can open up. Yeah. And in order for that to connect to that part of ourselves, we have to get a sense of what's stopping us connecting.
Yeah, exactly. The ways we're blocking.
Yeah.
Our ability.
And that's every single one of us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all do it.
Yeah.
This is not just you're
it's
better
not possible.
than everyone else.
No, and it's not possible not to.
Exactly.
It's not possible not to. So I think that's the first thing, because I think one of the difficulties with if you're on a path of self-development and wanting to do things in a different way, is that it's very easy to get into a kind of sense of trying to manipulate yourself to be a better person or a different person than one you actually are. But I'm suggesting that you are absolutely as you are as you should be right now. And a lot of what blocks us is trying to be something other than who we are, what we are, because that takes physical effort and energy. And when we try not to be ourselves, then we contract ourselves, we contract our muscles, we shorten ourselves, we shrink ourselves, we take on postures in order to try to express a better version of ourselves because we don't feel acceptable.
As we are.
Yeah. As we are.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say that it's really even more about stripping away what isn't you?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think that that's what's so interesting what you said, because we've had a lot of talks about, you know, influential figures from our childhood, for instance. You know, a child needs the approval of their parents in order to survive in the world. We need that. So we learn to adapt very young. We learn to please people very young, or to be the funny one, or all sorts of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's a habit that you can't stop, then it is an image of a sense, and it's a image that perhaps protects you to a certain extent. But I'm going to ask you today, do you really need that? And when you're with your horse, particularly, do you need that? Because I believe that they see straight through that, or they feel straight through that, and that they feel the internal world of the person more than they actually are taken in by the external appearance, behavior. So, but yes, I think that's a really interesting thing that you said.
Yeah. I think our fears get in the way, our beliefs about what we think we need to be. I think this gets in the way quite a bit. These become, obstructions, obstacles to actually connecting deeper with ourselves and therefore our horses and our riding. You know, that's really what I wanted to get this into is, of course, we're talking about personal development and all of this because we can't separate it. But the motivation here is also to be able to connect better with our horses, to improve our relationship with our horses, and improve our relationship with our riding, and improve our relationship with our image of ourselves as riders.
Yes, there's something for me about when you said that. I had the sense that if we as adults, which we all are, and maybe, you know, we're not 20 anymore, if we can relax into who we are, I think that's an absolute gift to take into the second half of your life.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I'm personally working on. Of course, 50, you know, I'm going through all of that stuff right now. You know, it's really normal.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of being riders and you know, having horses in our lives is that they are wonderful creatures for really showing us when we're on track with that, and also when we're not. You know, I have had so many moments in my own journey with my horse where, you know, I realized there's an aspect of myself that I haven't accepted.
Yeah.
And it was so unconscious that I didn't even know, and I would have been quite surprised. And I've been through, you know, a 7-year psychotherapy training and been in therapy myself and done the Feldenkrais training. So I like to think I know myself quite well. And yet I did not know myself as well as I thought I did. And the beauty of having this relationship with my horse and the horses on the farm that he's at is that I see parts of myself that I never knew about. And I think I experienced my life, therefore, more as myself, and it's so much richer than it was. Even though, you know, what am I doing? I'm living in London. I drive out on the M4 and go to the farm, and, you know, it's not so amazing, but it feels like it's a lot more amazing.
Actually, it's all amazing in a way. I mean, it's all ordinary and it's all extraordinary. Every moment can be. It's all on how you're able to look at it.
Yes, and experience it. You know, this capacity that we have to be really experiencing every moment, and that means also the moments of challenge and difficulty as well as the wonderful moments.
Right.
So not pushing away what feels negative, but actually just seeing that it's another experience.
Yes.
It's another state that you move through on your way to the next state.
Yeah.
And there are 1,000 different states, maybe more, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, there was actually a great quote that I read. Where is my book? I don't know where my book is. I wanted to find it. It was about finding peace is not devoid of conflict. It's finding peace in the conflict, you know, in the midst of the conflict. And I feel like that's also something that we can embody with our horses too, because you can't think, oh, well, my relationship with my horse will be good when all the conflict is gone, when the resistance is gone, when all of these things are gone, because this is where it's at. This is where the work is, in all of that. And you can find the harmony even within dealing with the momentary disagreement, the conflict, the lack of communication. That's where the gold is. That's where the really good stuff is.
Well, and I absolutely, and I think that when you are in conflict either with your horse or with another, that is still communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that there's only one type of communication. That's when everything is harmonious and flowing, and you're in this kind of like, oh, amazing union or whatever. Right. It that isn't. It's right. It can be. I feel frustrated, and your horse kind of answers back at you, and then you're like, you have a response, and then they have a response. That is communication, and that is a conversation.
Right. Conflict in the permaculture course I was taking last year, we were talking about conflict and how conflict is wisdom emerging, essentially, that it's wisdom trying to emerge, and it's always a sign that there's something. The conflict is because there's something there that is emerging, and we can look at that as a gift even.
Yeah, and I think that what you said about the permaculture, because it is about literally growth through the earth, there is that sense for me when there's something kind of pushing at my awareness, and I know that I need to pay attention to, but I don't know what it is, and I feel incredibly unsettled, and my breathing is disturbed, and it does feel like something is pushing through. And it is uncomfortable. It isn't, and then at some point I identify what it is, but it may be weeks, it may be months before I identify it. That's not a very comfortable experience often. However, if I can stick with it rather than trying to push it away, that's where the extraordinary happens in a way. It's the, not avoiding the discomfort of not knowing, the uncertainty, the new, it can be a bit
That was a beautiful way of bringing it back to our topic too, actually.
Yeah. So do you want to look at a couple of questions, or do you want to do a little bit of an exercise, or what do you think, Shana?
So far we have no questions.
Okay, good. So people are listening.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to type it into the chat. And if you're on Facebook, please just put your name down too, because sometimes it doesn't give us your name, unless you want me to call you Facebook user.
Facebook user, it's not great.
For some reason, it doesn't always give me the name. I don't know why.
I mean, I have to say, I think, if people have questions, they can put them in, but I'm also tempted to say, hold them for a moment and let's do a short exercise. And because it may be that the questions will be different after that.
Yeah, actually, could we talk about, just really briefly before we do that, why, because we're going to do a little Feldenkrais lesson, right?
Yeah.
Why we would do that? Why?
Well, as much as anything else, we're talking about connecting to the horses in a way that they can understand, which is actually more their lived experience. And Feldenkrais is a fantastic way of connecting to your internal sensory world, to your movement, to be able to work with movement in such a way that you move differently from your habitual ways that you go about your life. And through that, through experiencing something new in how you move and how you experience yourself internally, that is the change. So it is transformative in and of itself, because when you move differently than you did before, or you realize that you're standing and you haven't stood like that since you were 6 years old, or you do a movement and you go, I know I haven't done that since I was very small, and that was the last time I felt really free. That is a transformation. But it also is very much a way of being in the here and now, in your direct experience. So that's Feldenkrais. And the type of psychotherapy that I do is also very grounded in, it's a body-based type of psychotherapy.
Yes. And also you touched upon it a little bit, but this brings us into our senses, our sensory experience.
Yes.
And getting in touch with our senses is a way of clearing through so much of this chatter that goes on. It's like a moving meditation in a way.
Yes, indeed.
Grounding, and it clears away through all of this chatter that we often have about a topic that isn't really the topic. It's like we have this story that goes on in our head. We make everything into a story. We're telling ourselves the story about why I'm sitting here right now, that sort of thing.
Yes, and I mean, Feldenkrais's work is very much grounded in, it's like having a direct experience of the living reality of where you are right now. Yeah. So you got someone coming. Talking about direct experience.
Kid, yes, direct experience. Go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I would love to do that. And so if anybody has any questions right now, go ahead and type it in, or afterwards, go ahead and type it in. We'll answer.
And we'll address them.
Yeah, we'll try to address as many as we can. And so, Catherine.
Yes. So you can do this in sitting where you are, or if you are someone who prefers to lie on their back on the floor, that's also absolutely fine. So the important thing is that you're comfortable, and therefore the experience could hopefully be as enjoyable as possible. We're going to start with eyes open, and I'd like you to orient yourself to your environment. In other words, I imagine that many of you are in a familiar room, a place that you conduct your daily life. Could you look around your room, to the right, to the left, up and down? Notice what catches your attention. Sense the size of the space around you. The temperature, perhaps. And then close your eyes. And if you're lying on the floor, bring your feet to standing so that the soles of your feet are on the floor. If you're sitting on a chair, please bring both feet to the floor so the soles of feet are in contact with the ground. And take a moment to orient yourself to your more physical world, the world of your sensation. Perhaps you sense the pressure of your feet meeting the floor. You might feel the weight of your pelvis on the chair or on the floor if you're lying. And for those of you who've done Feldenkrais lessons before, you might notice some differences between how you experience your right side, your right leg, your right foot, compared to how you experience your left leg, your left foot, your left side. Can you attend to those lightly? So you notice without interpreting or making meaning of what you experience right now. And then can you take your attention to the sensation of your breath and the location of your breath in your torso, your body, the rise and the fall, the expansion and the contraction. As air comes in and air goes out. It's an unconscious process. So there's no need to manipulate your breathing or tinker with it in any way. You can observe without changing. And then sense the widest part of your rib cage. It's the lower ribs where the diaphragm is, the top of the abdomen. And sense how your breath moves this part of you as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Does this widest part of you, of your torso, does it widen further and narrow? And then move on up to your shoulders, the width of your shoulders. Which shoulder feels wider? If you could draw an imaginary line from the top of your sternum, the top of your breastbone out to your right shoulder, and to the top of your, from the top of your sternum to the top of your, to the left shoulder. Which is the greater distance? If you like, you can take your arms out to the sides so that you make one long line from your right hand to your shoulder, across your torso, to the left shoulder, the left arm, and the left hand. If you're sitting and you find it tiring, you could just go into this for a moment. If you're on the floor will support you. Could you imagine that without physically or actively doing anything, you get wider from the top of your sternum out to your shoulders, out to your arms and out to your hands? There's a sense somehow that some sort of energy or force can widen you into the space to the right or the left of you. And can you imagine, perhaps you can imagine water widening you from your center out through your shoulders to your hands, like hose pipes filling up. And do you have a sense of which arm and which shoulder lengthens more easily with this force? Perhaps on the other side, it feels like you almost have to tunnel through some, I don't know, some complicated soft tissue in order to feel the same width. And then leave that and take your attention to your mouth, to your eyes, to your ears. Feel the width of your face from the center out to your right ear and the center out to your left ear. Could you slowly and softly start to widen your mouth so that the corners of your mouth widen towards your ears? And then you slowly let your mouth return to its natural shape. And do that several times. So you widen your mouth towards your ears. And then you let your mouth return to maybe the expression that you wear often. And as you widen your mouth, can you sense perhaps that your shoulders could widen, your arms could lengthen, so that your mouth and your shoulders, and from the center, the top of your breastbone out to your shoulders, you get wider into the space to the right and the left of you. And each time you widen, you also allow yourself to return to your natural shape. And perhaps in the background, your breathing comes and goes. And then pause a moment, keeping your eyes closed, sense the space to the left of you and the space to the right of you in the room that you are sitting or lying in. And notice, do you seem to take up more space in your room to the left of you or to the right? Do you occupy one side of you more than the other? Perhaps you even have a sensory awareness of one side of the room, which is more clear than the other. And how is this awareness of the space around you connected to the width of your mouth, the width of your shoulders, the width of the lower part of your rib cage? How your breath moves into the right and the left side of you. And then if you're lying on the floor, of course, you can lengthen your legs and bring your arms down. If you're sitting, just take a moment before you close your eyes, before you open your eyes, to reorient yourself. And slowly open your eyes. And once again, you can look at the space around you, your familiar room. And can you, as you look around, have a sense of yourself in this room? Your presence, how you occupy this room, your width. And before we come back to the conversation, just keep a sense of your feet on the ground so that you can be with us and yet stay grounded and stay centered as we continue the conversation. And I will see you back here when you're ready.
And I'm back. Oh, that was great. I would love to hear what people thought of that. We did have a few comments and questions that came in, and I'll just dive right into those. Sally Watson said, "You are touching issues that never thought of before, really." It's interesting. And Horse Scouter said, "This makes sense, 100%. Facebook user says, "I'm just wondering if this course," she's talking about the Aware Writer course for those who don't realize, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, "if this course might be useful for people who are not horsey, for example, those who struggle with depression." Oh, it's Kathy Haywood Rand.
Oh, Kathy, yes.
Yes.
I think a lot of it will be, and it would be a question of whether the stuff about the horses and the connection with horses would not be so interesting. But Kathy, you can PM me if you like.
Yeah. I mean, we are going to talk about horses quite a bit,
Yes.
of course,
Yes.
and a connection with our horses. So it's not as specifically really made to be a course for non-riders.
I mean, the Feldenkrais lessons will be absolutely fantastic for someone who, isn't a rider. That would be no issue at all. Yeah,
exactly.
It'd be more about the discussions.
Discussions will be a little horse specific, but you could relate it to your dog too. You don't ride your dog, but maybe you
absolutely
work with your dog in other ways.
Anyone who's interested in animals, then I think it's obviously it's going to be very relevant. Each animal has its own way of expressing itself in the world, but I think there's a lot of common ground, isn't there?
Yeah. So another Facebook user says, really making me consider the flighty behavior of my horse and how it possibly reflects mine. Yeah. Sometimes we find that the horse mirrors our behavior, as in completely doing the same thing. And sometimes the horse mirrors it in the way that it shows the opposite or a reaction to, so sometimes if you're really big in your energy, sometimes just like some people will shrink and shy away from that. Some horses will too. It's not necessarily that the horse gets bigger and shows you that you're big by getting bigger. So
I think that's really true. And it's a very interesting thing maybe to observe in yourself, is that and you don't, not necessarily even with your horse, but how do people respond to you when you are feeling particularly flighty? Do you find that they get flighty with you, or do you find they retreat, or how does the way you are in yourself impact the other? And also perhaps it may be that the people around you are impacting on you, so you feel flighty.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Patty Chambers says, I'm going to have rotator cuff surgery soon, which requires an 18-month-long recovery. Do you have any suggestions as to activities I can do with my horse as I recuperate? I
mean, it's probably a bit of another topic, would you say? I think. I think so. I think really yes. It's. I think I would maybe ask that, and I don't know if you're in any of the groups, but that's something that I would ask in one of the groups that that we're already running, whether that's a groundwork group or.
If you're in one of those, Patty.
Yes.
If you're not, and we'll find a way to try to answer the question or get you into at least our free group, so that you can get some
exactly
of that answered. Certainly, while you're recuperating, you can do any sort of activities that help you connect with your horse without riding. I mean,
yes, you can definitely do that.
And you can probably ride at some point in the recovery process, just not immediately after surgery. I don't know what
you could do. I guess you could do work at Liberty, couldn't you? As long as you're
as long as you're not lifting your arm.
Yeah.
Because sometimes at Liberty work, you're lifting your arm to. So. Yeah. Well, I assume you're only getting surgery on one arm, on one shoulder.
It's just a long recovery, that surgery. As I'm sure they've told you, it just takes time. So
18 months. Wow.
It might be quicker than that. We'll see.
So I do not know how to pronounce your name. Sagla Elagos Basley. I'm so sorry. I am sure I mutilated that. I don't know how to pronounce it. It says, don't say we can only talk about our own experience.
Well, that's true. You can say I and we and you, but that's true. Yeah, that is true.
In we were talking about the collective we, that we can relate our experiences, but of course you can't speak for me, Catherine. I can't speak for you, and we can't speak for others. Yeah.
And that's certainly true that if in my own work, then I would certainly be clear that I am I and the other person is them, so to speak, or they are.
Yes. Okay, so let's see. Megan McKay says, interesting. I don't really think much about the sense of myself in a room or place.
Yes, I what I have noticed in the work that I do is that people are generally interacting often with others, or they're interacting with their thoughts, but often they don't have a much sense of their own presence in the space they're in.
Yeah.
And by presence, I mean that I know where I am in the front of me, the side of me, the back of me, 360 degrees around me. I am aware of my physical presence in the space and how much space I take up and how I move through that space, what I leave behind and what I'm going towards.
Yeah.
And that is, that is something which is I think in all physical activities, any sports or music or arts, that is something that I think high level performers are very, very aware of. Martial artists, football players, they are aware of every part of themselves in space.
Mm-hmm. And in writing, maybe
exactly.
You're not used to it when you're sitting here, but when you're writing, you most of the time, or much of the time, we're pretty aware of the space we're in, the dimensions of the arena, the other people in there, the things going on outside of the arena. You have to sort of keep track of all of things while you're keeping track of what's going on within yourself and within the horse and their interaction and the two of you. And then add in other things. Maybe you have a trainer teaching you at the moment, so you have to keep into account that. There are often other things too. Yeah, so let's see here. Maria Hill said, lovely. I took down my arms for a short time between. When I took them up again, the fingers banged into the furniture, so they were much longer after that short session. Yeah.
Funny, eh? Funny.
Yeah, my arms feel really good now. Really good. I'm like, ooh. Yeah, they feel alive and full and like pumping with blood in a really good way, It feels really good. Mary Bogue said, although this is not about a horse, the energy we emit affects all the world around us. When I become too high energy, our Siamese cat will come running and attack me. Oh my gosh, low energy, and she will be loving on my lap. The bees and birds in the garden are at peace with me when I'm at peace. When I'm not, they are not visible around me. Yes, great observation, Mary.
Yeah, I think that's something that I can certainly prove to myself every day, I would say, or confirm. Yes.
Yeah, I've certainly noticed this with horses. That is so cool. Your cat, Mary, is a great teacher. Really awesome to have a teacher like that living with you. Rachel DiStefano says, doing the exercise, I noticed that my mind felt more quiet and the sounds around became louder. It's a bit of a calming and uneasy feeling, more impressionable. The space around feels bigger.
Yeah. And this is exactly, what I want to get to with the Feldenkrais lessons and in the course, is that when you are connected to yourself, your physical self, and your internal world of sensation, your senses are much more alive. When you connect to the world through your thinking, there's nothing wrong with that. We need our thinking, I need my thinking, for the people who don't want me to say we. I need my thinking, and I imagine you do too. But it is just one way of relating, and I think it can be limited and a bit dead feeling. And it can be very habitual and repetitive, the thoughts that we have.
Oh, gosh.
And definitely don't leave much to inner peace.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Oh. You may be speaking only about you, but you were speaking about me too. Yeah. Sue Tai said, the calmness and thinking about what you're feeling, if definitely think it connects to you, who is, it's hard to read, there's some typos, who is very sensitive. If I breathe out and let my high energy out and feel grounded, I feel she follows and it helps her settle. Great thinking process, awareness of where I am. Yeah. Sabina Poor says, within the exercise, I started yawning and I couldn't stop. My old horse is ill for 3 days now, and I think the tension just fell off.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, Sabina. Yeah, well, my thoughts are with you and with your horse. Mm.
Yeah, but that's true. You know, the yawning
Yes.
can sometimes be the stress coming out or being relieved. It's not always that you're tired. Sometimes the horses also yawn at times when they're not necessarily tired.
Yeah. And I think also sometimes when I have things going on in my life which are, really worrying or concerning me, I can get through to a certain extent on adrenaline, and then there's a certain point, if I take the time to get down on the floor and do something like I've just done, or a more dynamic movement session, which we do as well, I can really feel tired afterwards, because it's somehow, actually my true state comes through this work. It shows me where I really am, what my living reality is, rather
not
than
what you were covering up with.
Exactly. Or just trying to get through. Sometimes sometimes I have to, sometimes I have to do things I don't want to do or push through.
I did want to add one thing, because I get the Feldenkrais hands-on treatment every week by a local Feldenkrais practitioner, and when she does things that really, like, I love it when she pulls on me, I love this. That's, of course, me, that's, what
heaven.
I thrive on extension, right? And when she starts doing that, I start yawning. It's the same thing. It's like when you yawn and you stretch, it's like it stimulates that in me. So I was just thinking that, with Sabina, that
maybe there was, maybe there is a direct kind of connection between that kind of lengthening, widening feeling and opening up your throat in some way.
And it does release all this tension, because when we get tense, we contract, we hold it in. And when you have to open, when you are willing to open, when you are willing to open and you release this, and it kind of floats away.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing, of course, because in a sense, how I stop my expression, if I have something and I want to say it and I can't say it because of, I don't know, societal norms, or, I might be angry. And how I do that is by constricting my throat and shortening and constricting and contracting my chest. And that is how I stop my expression. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it, that when you described that, Sabina, maybe something is coming out.
Yeah. And of course, if she's dealing with a sick horse, this kind of makes you kind of brace for what could be happening. Yeah. So Ariana Aldrin says, my friend broke her shoulder and I found tons of Feldenkrais exercises for getting full range of movement again. My trainer just had rotator cuff surgery, just headed to Europe 6 months to train, I guess. Maybe one armed, but he's back with horses. I think there's a lot you could do.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's something nice and maybe cheerful for you before you have your surgery. There's an example of.
Yes. And Heather Warburton says, traveling in car, trying to do the exercise. Too relaxing.
So are you driving?
Yeah, maybe we need to add a disclaimer. Don't do this while driving. Don't close your eyes while
the familiar surroundings of your car on the motorway. Oh.
Keep one eye open, She said, it's too relaxing. I will do it again. I'm quite busy and my horses are too. I was aware last night that I needed to slow down and did the breathing ribs exercise, but I think I choose that sort of horse. I'm recovering from damage to tailbone from a fall. Ooh, that's not fun. I've been there. Suffering from frustration and realized mentally distanced myself from horses, which made it worse. Regarding rotator cuff surgery, I declined it, and 2 to 3 years on with Feldenkrais, I now have full movement.
Oh,
very cool.
Well, that's wonderful, Heather. And actually, I do know a little bit of that story, so I'm really pleased for you. Yeah, I'm delighted. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah.
Linda Jones says, I'll need to watch it again as the start of the exercise. I fell asleep. Oh, Linda.
Well, we always say Feldenkrais. Well, no. Feldenkrais, it gives you what you need, and you were truly being who you are, Linda, which was tired and needing to sleep.
maybe you
No.
needed that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's exactly what you needed. Maybe you didn't need to do the rest of it. You just needed that. So she said, not very present, but very relaxed. I dare say you were present. If you fell asleep, you were very present asleep. Yes, no shame on falling asleep. Sarah Keeping says, oh, I missed the beginning. I've been trying to study this on my own a bit. Yeah, so
okay, right.
When we're done, Sarah, you can watch the recording and you can do it. That just, forget the first part where we had tech difficulties. Facebook user says, in the Ritter top line makeover course, Thomas mentioned when asking your horse to sidestep that being aware of the whole picture, the whole horse, environment, etc., and not just focusing on the inside hind crossing is important to the quality of the work. This relates to the Feldenkrais experience this evening.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yes. And just a few more
great
comments.
Observation.
Yeah. Great observation. Just a few more comments and then we'll talk about something else. So Sarah Reedy says, or Reedy, I think it's Reedy, says, Reedy, if one embraces the tension, we can find another place. We are so uncomfortable with tension, we want to fix it right away. Meanwhile, tension has brought me to great places. I mean,
I think Sarah's been on quite a few, in fact both Aware Riders, I think, and also Feldenfit, so you're quite experienced, aren't you, with the Feldenkrais work?
She's been on this journey already for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sue Tai says, will you please give a replay of this exercise? I feel I need to do it again. Actually, yes, this recording will be available afterwards.
Yeah,
absolutely. And Heather Warburton says, I wasn't driving and I did fall asleep.
Well, I know you're not going to be alone. There are many students in Aware Rider and Feldenfit who regularly seem to use my classes just to have a little nod off. Why not?
If that's what you need,
I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Yes. At least they're not like, oh, I'm so stressed after listening.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, one more. Melissa Burt Smith said, actually, I think we should create a Feldenkrais made for driving, as I bet we're all often listening to you and Thomas while driving.
Then I really would get sued, wouldn't I? People would be like playing with the accelerator and no. Sorry, Melissa, I'm going to turn you down on that.
Maybe you feel the hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah, definitely. I know people do that. I know lots of people do that. So they've already described how they do Feldenkrais in the car, but I am not advocating it.
You're on your own there, Melissa. Sorry. All right. So if there's any more questions, go ahead and put them in. I don't know if we'll be able to get to them, but we can try to answer them afterwards too. We want to take a few minutes and talk about our Aware Rider course, which is now open. This is where we are exploring all of this even more.
Yes.
So this is a 6-week masterclass intensive experience. We have lots of words to go with this, because it's really, we've done Aware Rider courses before. This is the third one, but the topics are all brand new and we're going into uncharted territory, really. We're exploring some things that we've never explored before, and we've never seen anybody else explore quite like the way we are going to be exploring it. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, good. I was just going to say, we're at the heart of this is that if you have a connection to yourself as you are, and you work on the relationship with your horse, that can form the foundation for all the time you spend with them, whether that's training or working or just hanging out, and that in itself is, in a sense, what can lead to you, I think, realizing your unavowed dreams. I'm going to take it that far.
Yeah, I'll take it that far too. Yeah, I really think so. So let's talk a little bit about what is in the course. This is, like I said, it's 6 weeks. It's actually 7 weeks, but we have a week vacation in between week 4 and 5.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a break in there. and we have a topic for each week that we
Yes.
are covering. Would you like to talk about those topics? Do you have them on hand, perhaps?
My laptop died, so I don't have them on hand, which is not very helpful.
I can find them. Find them. So in week 1, it's building a strong and mutually beneficial partnership with your horse. You want to talk just a moment about that?
Yes, I mean, in a way, that's exactly what I just mentioned, is that if you put the strength of your partnership first and foremost, everything can flow from that. Whereas I think this is certainly what I found, is that there were leaks in that. There were parts of it which weren't really established, and that really, really showed up at a later time, and I had to go back and keep going back and keep going back. And I know that's a familiar scenario. It could even be something like you don't notice that your horse needs a little bit more time to process, and that's just an individual characteristic of your horse. But because you're too involved in pushing for what you want, you don't notice, and then you get into a situation which I'm sure is familiar to many people who are around horses, where you feel like you're in a fight, and there's no satisfaction, etc., etc. So the strength of the working alliance is for me an absolute fundamental. And in a sense, it's what we also do in our lives. We make contracts, working contracts with people, and if the contract is really clear, then we know where we are, and that is what we're going to cover in week 1. Yeah. And with the idea of is that with every topic we have discussions. We have a discussion on Monday, which is with Thomas, Shana, and me, and we do a short exercise like we've done tonight, but maybe with more movement in it, which illustrates the topic and I suppose supports it. And then later on in the week, we actually have a meeting style. We have a meeting on Wednesday where you will all be able to participate, and that will be if you want to, or you can have your video off and you can be muted. That's also fine. Yeah. But there we will have much more of a participatory discussion, a collaborative discussion on the topic, how it's playing out in your own lives and in your relationship with your horse. And I'm going to be doing that with Charlotte Zetterberg, who is a Feldenkrais colleague. She's also a meditation teacher. And I believe she's also trained in hypnotherapy, as well as being the author of Feldenkrais for Riders, which is a completely fantastic book. So she's highly accomplished. Yes. And then Yvonne Lubka, who is a very experienced horse equine body worker.
Yes, she's a holistic equine specialist.
Yes, as well as teaching. She teaches riding, and she also has done some work with animal communication, I believe, as well, which is really interesting, and acupuncture, all sorts of things. So we've got a really diverse team, which I think covers every aspect of the topic, which is how can you have the most rich and nourishing and satisfying relationship with your horse, and understand that everything can flow from that.
Yes. And then on Thursdays, we're going to have another Feldenkrais lesson, as if all of that wasn't enough already.
Yes, Thursdays will be the longer. It's a really a much deeper exploration, if you like. We do about a 25-minute lesson with a little bit of room either side, so it's a half an hour session. And if you found that you had a bit of an experience of things changing for you in that short session, you will feel it much more strongly in the longer sessions. So prepare to feel like a different person, and then a different person each week, because it really can be like that. You're like, oh, who am I today? Because I feel different. Yes.
And because all of these are recorded, you can also do them all over and over again, which many of the people in our courses do. They repeat them multiple times to either explore it further, or to see if the phenomena that happens remains the same, or if they have a different experience, or to explore in a different way. Sometimes you want to do it sitting instead of laying down, and things like that. Yeah. So you have that option. You can do it as many times as you want.
Yes, of course. Everything is recorded and downloadable as well, and will be on podcast, I think.
Yes, that's the other cool thing. We're now putting everything onto, we're calling it the Aware Rider podcast. It's only for members in this, but it's so that you can just access it anywhere you access your podcasts already, like Apple or, iTunes, whatever. And you can just download it to your phone and listen to it. Anytime, as many times as you need. You can go, oh yeah, I want that session too right now before I go ride my horse, and you can quickly do that sort of thing. And so, was there anything else that we want to talk about with the course? I think we covered all of the details.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as we said, we've got a different theme for each week.
Do you want me to read the rest of them?
I don't know. Do we need to list them, or what do you think? Yes, maybe quickly,
just briefly. Yeah, week 2 is a dialogue, not a monologue. Walking in your horse's hooves.
Yeah. So this again is, for me, it's about understanding that a partnership is when you work as an equal with the other. It means that you have a conversation or communication where you listen, you hear, and that when you do that, there's a sense for me that it's two systems listening at the same time, both to themselves and the other. So it is a very special experience. And I'm not saying you will get that every time, or I get that every time. But when I am in that state, which I'm hoping to facilitate with these type of lessons that we did tonight, where I'm actually grounded and centered and my breathing is free, I'm not contracted. It gives me the opportunity to be able to, actually, we had that beautiful example, didn't we, of one of the people saying that they could hear more. Yes. And of course, if you can hear more information is coming in, and you observe more and you notice more and you are more receptive to the other. And I believe that when I am more receptive to my horse, he is more receptive to me, and you get this dual and two-way emerging dialogue, which can be really very special indeed on those days where that happens. Because I'm not saying every day is a wonderful, of
course, because every day has to be unique. That's the beauty of it.
Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing to that, that the sense that the hearing, that noises got louder isn't because your ears started working any differently. It
can be.
Your awareness changed. We shifted your awareness.
Yes, I think that's a really good question, and not something I can specifically answer with certainty. My sense that in a somatic or physical way, I actually feel like my ear holes open up a little bit. So because when you have contractions in the muscles of your face, your throat, your chest, your back of your neck, it does actually affect your hearing.
Okay.
It affects your ability to be able to see in the periphery as well as in front. Your mouth gets tighter. The more muscular contraction you have, the less sensitive you are. So
that makes total sense. And I have to now eat my words that I just said. Does it have anything to do with your ears? Because actually,
I think it does. Yes.
Yeah. And that that simple exercise can actually change that.
Yeah. Wow. And I think the second thing is that by quietening our system down, which that type of lesson does, then you will be more in your senses and less in the busyness of the sort of visceral disturbances, which are often reflective of our troubled thinking or repetitive thinking or rumination.
Yes. And that's where I was coming from. But you
both.
My mind that there's this whole other thing too. Happens always with you. You always do this to me in a good way. You blow my mind. So week 3 is somatic communication, an embodied and wholehearted approach to conversation.
So this is actually exactly. So each week it flows really nicely through and it builds. And I wanted to go more into some of the aspects of how to build a dialogic relationship. And my big thing is about somatic presence and how you can calibrate. And by calibrate, I mean you can expand your presence, you can shrink your presence, you can grade your presence according to the needs of the situation. And we touched on that earlier on, didn't we? About sometimes, you know, you'll have a big presence and your horse will shrink.
Yes.
So I'm saying that it's about your ability to be adaptable in your presence.
Yeah.
We don't always need a big presence. Sometimes we need to be a bit more invisible.
Yes.
And so much of this is being able to be adaptable, to be in yourself and aware enough that you can feel that this is a moment to be able to actually quieten yourself down, or this is a moment to actually bring yourself up. And again, that will be supported by exercises and movements and that kind of thing. And conversation. Yeah.
Yes. Tools.
Yeah. I actually wrote my thesis on this for my psychotherapy. Yeah. Masters.
Cool. Yeah.
Somatic presence. It's a fascinating thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Big stuff.
4.
So week 4.
Oh yeah.
Seeing, sensing, and engaging with the phenomenological world of your horse. What is the phenomenological world?
Okay, so it is the world of your present moment experience. It literally is. What do you notice right now, and what do you notice through your senses? Your thoughts are as much part of your phenomenological world, if you like, as your feelings and as what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you taste, the kinesthetic sense. It's all part of the world that we experience and our subjective reality. But we tend to have habitual ways of engaging with it. So why I want to introduce this topic is that if you can put aside your normal ways of engaging and start to notice more, you will be surprised at what is there, which you have not seen before. And with horses, that is really, it's what you notice, what you observe.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you observe freshly, it's lively. And I think it can be through that liveliness, you will be more responsive and quicker in your responses and more adaptable in terms of what the situation you're in demands or asks for. Yeah.
Very cool. Week 5, finding the focus yet remaining adaptable. What does that mean?
Okay. It's really about, again, through your observing and noticing, and you will identify that there are certain things that you're drawn to. Yes. And this, in a training session, that could even be something like, I want to do a half pass today. Okay. That's something that you're really drawn to and you want to move towards. So it can be something as simple as that it's a focus. And yet, of course, sometimes other things come into the moment which take your attention away. Yes. And sometimes you need to prioritize those. Yes. So it's not becoming so focused that you're unable to move into actually what needs to be addressed before that.
Just to be in the present.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've actually got a very specific model that I'm going to teach, which will help you identify whether you really are attending to what your most important need is in the moment, or what your horse's most important need is in the moment, or whether you actually need to ditch what you think is important and move to something else. But I'm going to use a model to demonstrate that.
Ooh, great. I really like this.
Yeah. And actually, I think the Wednesday meeting will be great for that, because it's quite complex. And, but it's a cool model.
Very cool. Yeah, you have me excited.
But I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I know. I want to know. I can't. I'm so glad I get to take this course. Yeah. So week 6 is in ending well, savoring the moment and knowing how to rest.
Yes. So in terms of week 5, which is about finding the focus, in order to be able to identify what is most important, you need to have finished and completed the cycle of whatever you were engaged in before. Yeah. And for most of us, we tend to miss out on, for example, feeling satisfied. Oh, here's a key component of the course.
Which one is this?
That's Alfie. He's
That
always
is
on,
Alfie,
on
okay.
camera. Yeah. Yeah. You know, do you, when you actually ride, do you feel satisfied, or do you go straight away? Thank you, Alfie. That's great.
Cats. I love cats.
You go straight away into analyzing what you could have done better, for example. So you never give yourself the chance to feel nourished by the work that you do.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you do that, when you don't allow yourself to feel nourished and satisfied, to move away from what you've been doing, to pause, you are on a continuous cycle of just finishing something too early without actually processing it properly, and then straight away engage with something else because you're trying to get to satisfaction, but you never allow yourself to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? You know, and I think often with achievement-oriented people, that's a really big topic.
Yep. I know. Yeah.
So it's about really being able to move through you know, and endings and finishing is such a big thing for people. I think many, you know, I know I certainly have a relationship to endings which isn't always the most functional or healthy. So
bringing a healthy closure to each ride.
Yes,
you know, and this isn't just about when to get off the horse, when to end the ride, but also how to close the loop of open communication that's happening, so it can be
absolutely. There's a lot of there are many aspects to it. So and I think you know from what I've seen from the people who've joined already, there's going to be some really interesting input from those people because they are already talking about this kind of stuff. And I think that's what I really love about the Aware Rider course, is that it's not me, Thomas and Shana teaching and Charlotte and Yvonne as kind of experts. Actually, we're all in it, sharing our experiences and sharing, you know, so it's a fantastic learning thing for me. It's why I wanted to do it. Exactly. That's the idea. You know, I'm pretty into the idea. I don't like hierarchy, and I like to feel like we're all kind of doing this together. And sure, you know, I thought of the topics and the themes, but you know, the participants bring such a lot to it. So
and help shape it.
And help shape it exactly. So that's it. That's the 6 weeks.
I'm really looking forward to this. We start on Monday, June 27th with the first sessions. That's the first week. So I would love to have you all join us. I did put the link in here, but it doesn't show up everywhere. I acknowledge it's the limitations with the medium that we're working in. So you can go to artisticdressage.com and it's right there. You can either click on the store and go to the courses and find them in there, or you can just see right on that main page information on the course too. You just scroll down a little bit, you'll find it. We just had a couple of questions and maybe we should read them real quick. Okay. So let's see. Akina Park says, how does the Aware Rider differ to the What, Why, How, and Biomechanics course? Completely different.
Completely different. Yeah.
Those are really training the horse courses. This is really training the rider, and this is not dressage specific at all. No. This is, you don't even have to be riding actually to do this course.
Yeah. But one thing for sure is it will really support your work, your dressage work.
Yes,
I think
absolutely. It absolutely will. Or whatever you do with your horse. You know, if you do jumping or Western or anything you do, this will really help round out the whole relationship and experience with your horse. Sutai, I'm going to go through these really quick. I just hate leaving them open. If that's okay with you, Catherine?
Yeah, of course, that's absolutely fine. Yes.
Okay. Sutai, I work with my mare in a big paddock and I have a measured arena, and sometimes she wants to go large into field, I feel, and allow and laugh and pat as she amazes me with her personality and that special feeling and free movement, just so special to allow. Yeah. I think that's about taking the horse's input.
I think so, yes, exactly. And actually to really be with the horse's expression.
Yes. And hear what they're saying, to notice this is what they're suggesting. Yes. Ariana Aldrin says, is this the course I asked about a few Facebook Lives ago when Catherine, you said that Barn just wanted to, that people just want to objectify your horse or something?
It could be, Ariana. Yeah.
If not, what course was that? Would love to go into that. I love the idea and would love that idea brought down. Yes.
We were talking about this course, but we didn't talk specifically about it, but we were leading up to it. So yes, if those ideas are interesting to you, I think you'll really enjoy it. Exactly. Actually, I think you'll enjoy it anyway, Ariana, because I think it's right up your street.
Yeah, I think so too. Heather Warburton's doing the lessons a second time is such a bonus. I find it more enlightening as I'm less intent and more relaxed. So true, actually, because the concept of knowing what to expect means you can relax a little bit. You're not kind of like, what's going to be next, you know? I agree. I like repeating. I do the fell and fit, and sometimes I'll repeat them 4 or 5 times before I move on to the next one. Yeah. For just that reason, that repetitiveness is really nurturing in a way. Yeah. So Jackie Davies says, this is such an interesting and full lineup. It really is. I'm so excited. Ariana says, a walk in the woods shuts up my mind and I can hear the birds and wind. Yes. Nature's really good for that. Yeah, for me too. Victor Carrasco says, actually, I'm fighting against cancer, so I'm not strong enough to ride my 5-year-old Spanish PRE stallion. Do you think long reining and double lunge could be good for us? That's not actually what we're doing in this course, but just to answer your question, I think long reining itself, riding is easier than long reining, frankly, but double lunging conserves more energy. That's something you could certainly do. We do cover all of this in our top line makeover course, which has started. You can still get into it, but we're already a couple weeks into it now. In this course, in the Aware Rider course, we're not covering specific techniques or anything to do with the horse. This is actually, if you're fighting against cancer right now, it's a really nice moment to, seizing the moment, seizing the opportunity to do some other exploration with your horse might be of interest to you. If it is, we welcome you into the course. Megan McKay says, is this, quote, presence similar to raising your internal energy, as in working with horses, having more energy to create more energy in them, or to increase my bubble so they don't step on me? She's asking.
I think that's one aspect of it. Yes. Yeah, I definitely think that's one aspect. And there's more to it. Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think that's you're touching upon it.
You are touching upon it. Yeah,
but it can go even beyond, way beyond this. Yeah. So, and Jackie Davies says, thank you for this. I have to leave this live session, but I'm looking forward to the course. Me too.
Yay.
Hey, Jackie. So Kristen Lindblom says, thank you so much. Anonymous Facebook user says, Feldenkrais for drivers. Haven't we all done that? LOL. Learning to allow ourselves to feel nourished by the work we do. Now, there is a crucial component. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, good. I'm delighted.
And Sabina Poor says, the more details link of the Aware Rider course leads to top line makeover course. Oh, is that in the store, Sabina? I can get that fixed. Thank you for letting me know. I'll take a look as soon as we're done. But there is, I'll take a look and fix that. So give me 10 minutes when we're done with this and I'll have it fixed. Yes, in the store or on the website main page. Maybe you can let me know and I'll get it fixed. And I think that's all of our questions. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks so much, everybody, for participating, turning up, and being with us this sunny Tuesday evening.
Yes.
And I hope you join us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Sabina. I'll get that fixed right away. Just give me 10 minutes and then the link will work.
Yeah. Cool.
I would love to have you all join us in the course. Please, for those of you that are watching the replay, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email at ritterdressage@gmail.com or you can go into our Artistic Dressage community Facebook group. It's a free group. You can ask questions in there. And the other course participants as well as ourselves can answer you.
Yes. Yes. And you can tag me in there as well if you want some specific answers to questions. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Catherine.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.